G'day everyone, it's Raphael here. Now, if you've been on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or any kind of social media, you've definitely heard of this camera. It fits in your pocket, it has an inbuilt gimbal, and it shoots beautiful, crisp 4K footage. It is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Now, I've had this camera for more than a year. In fact, I owned it twice. So I actually purchased it when it first came out, and then I sold it, then I purchased it again. That story to come. But I've taken it to the Louvre in Paris, I've taken it to the Colosseum in Rome, and recently, I've just come back from my honeymoon in Hawaii, where I used this to capture all the beautiful memories that I have with my now wife. It's an amazing camera. I really like it. But there's a caveat. And that is something that no YouTuber is talking about, and I think you guys should really know if you're willing to spend all this money on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Now, let's start off with what it is, because it's not a standard point and shoot camera. It is, dare I say it, a little weird. Now, it has an inbuilt 3-axis gimbal. Now, this means that you get smooth footage no matter how shaky your hands are. And then on top of this, it has a 1-inch CMOS sensor and a fully articulating screen that goes vertically, just like that, and then horizontally, just like that. Hello, how you doing? And on top of that, it has beautiful 4K imagery at 120 frames per second. Now, that's only in slow-mo, but when it is in slow-mo, you get these beautiful buttery motions of images on your screen, and of course outside of that you can shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. Now, I am not a professional. I'm not a cinematographer or a videographer or a photographer. I'm a corporate lawyer who loves tech, and I love cameras because I like to make YouTube videos, and more importantly, I like to take photos and videos of my family for cherished memories and for memories that are going to last a lifetime. So I really appreciate good gear. That being said, I do have a couple of professional camera gear setups. So for example, I'm shooting on the Sony a7 Mark IV with a 35mm 1.4 aperture G master lens. A very expensive lens, a very expensive camera, but absolutely amazing. And that's for A-roll. For B-roll, I have this beast, the Sony a7C Mark II. This is with a 16mm or 16 to 35mm 2.8 G master aperture lens. From Sony as well. And then I have a very expensive microphone on top of that. That's the Sony ECM something or other. The conventions that Sony have when it comes to naming their products, a bit bizarre. But anyway, that is a very expensive camera, very expensive lens. This setup altogether is crazy expensive. I haven't even talked about the microphone that I'm using to record this video right now. It's a Sennheiser, the gold standard. I can't remember its name. It's expensive. But the reason why I thought I'll pick this up is because it is a pretty cool camera. It's very nifty, it's incredibly small, and I think it's a perfect camera if you're starting off with content creating, or even if you just want a camera to take videos and photos of your family, your children, your pets. I think it's really good, and I'm going to go into all of that in this video today. And I'm also going to point out some cons, because there are some cons to this camera which a lot of people don't really talk about, and you only really realize it when you've actually spent all that money to purchase it. So this is going to be quite comprehensive, so let's get into it. First, it shoots 4K footage with this beautiful cinematic quality that has punchy colors. It looks very natural. It has great dynamic range, especially if you start shooting in D-Log-M or HLG 10-bit and then you decide to color grade it afterwards. That's the great thing about it. But you don't even have to do that. You don't have to go through the whole process of color grading your image and your footage. All you have to do is just record in automatic mode, and you get really impressive videos. But what was really surprising to me is that, yes, the videos are great, but so are the photos. People have not talked about the photos that you get from the DJI Pocket 3. It's actually exceptional. Now, I have the 16 Pro Max, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, And obviously I have these full frame cameras as well. Putting the full frame cameras to the side, I actually prefer shooting with this when it comes to photos compared to my iPhone 16. Now, spec by spec, this has a bigger sensor compared to the iPhone. It doesn't have that post-processing that comes from the iPhone. So what you really get is these really high dynamic range images that are high quality. They don't have that artificial sharpening. They look quite pleasant. I was trying to figure out a word that could really describe these photos. It's pleasant. It's nice. I enjoy it. The second part to it is that this gimbal can manually be moved around. So you can probably see right there. Actually, let me move it around here. You can probably see me move the lens using the joystick, and I can move it up and down and left and right. This is actually a pretty innovative feature because now you can actually shoot in a more deliberate way. You can shoot videos or take photos from perspectives that you otherwise would not be able to do. And I think that is really awesome when it comes to creative shots and just broad creative videography and perhaps even photography. As an example for me, when we traveled to Europe and we went to the Vatican, one, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. There's artwork everywhere, left and right, but also up and down. And that was really interesting because I had this camera and all the other people were using their phones or whatever cameras that they bought, and they were like trying to pivot up and try to take photos of the ceiling or down below or anything like that. It was, you could tell when people were taking photos. Whereas for me, I could literally just open it up like this and I would pivot the camera. I mean, just like this, I was able to just hold it out on my palm essentially, and I would be able to take those photos and those videos. And, you know, again, having that gimbal is so useful for creativity. It allows you to shoot images and photos which you would otherwise not be able to because you simply can't. So this allows you to access perspectives that you otherwise would not be able to. The third thing is auto face tracking. So it kind of comes off the idea of how great the gimbal is, but the auto face tracking feature is really, really good. If you're like me and you shoot videos by yourself without anyone else, having this ability to face track really ensures that you can always be in frame. Sometimes when I'm recording, it's frustrating because I just don't know whether I'm in frame or not, whether I'm in focus or not. With this, it follows your face around. If you put it on a tripod, you can literally walk around the room and it will just follow you around almost like you have a cameraman, which is really, really great, and it tracks it really, really well. Now, the fourth pro, for me at least, is using it as a webcam. This is the best webcam that I have. I have no desire to buy any other webcam. It is absolutely amazing. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. First, it shoots amazing quality. In webcam mode, it's 1080p at 60 frames per second. It's not 4K. You can get 4K though by using OBS. I prefer not to because I just want a plug and play device, and that's exactly what it is. In webcam mode, you just put a USB-C into the back of this thing, and I'll actually show you how I set up this webcam setup, but I essentially have this on a tripod. I plug it in via USB-C. The computer automatically recognizes it as a video device, and I can use FaceTime, I can go on Teams, Zoom, whatever it is, and it will record me at 1080p or 4K if I'm using OBS. The other great thing is, of course, the gimbal and the fact that I can manually control my footage. So I can put it on a tripod and I can move the joystick around, up and down, left and right. I can make sure I'm in frame, and then I could digitally zoom in as well, which is a great thing. If you have a weird background, you can ensure that only you are in the image. Now, the other pro about this camera is how small it is and its body size, and I guess the shape of its body. Again, it does not look like a camera. It actually baffles my mind at how it looks like, well, you don't even know what it looks like. For most people out there, when they see this thing, they're like, is that a camera? Is that a toy? What is it? And that's a real good thing. If we start off with the size of the thing, it's so tiny. It fits within the palm of your hand. It's actually so cool. Like if you do it like this, you can record and all you see up there is this little lens that's protruding out. If you're doing vlogs, for example, out in public, that means less stairs. I mean, for example, would you rather shoot with this thing or this big boy? Right? Unless you're Casey Neistat, you're probably not going to want to shoot with a big camera like this. It's really when you're probably with a behemoth amount of subscribers and you're really popular and you're really trying to make really high-end 4K content, you're probably not going to vlog with a full-frame camera like that. You probably want to start off with something tiny like this, and that's a really, really great thing. It also means that you can take it with you everywhere, and that's one of the best aspects of this. I didn't really have to think about whether I wanted to take this with me on adventures, when I'm going out, when I'm traveling, when I'm doing anything. I just take this with me because it's so tiny, it's not going to make a dent in my bag, and it's really easy to use and set up. So the size aspect is really great, and the ergonomics of it is great as well, because look at it, you can just hold it in your palms. The grip is really good, and I'm just going to say it, when you're in very packed tourist areas, especially if you go to Europe over the summer, safety is a big concern, and theft is something that happens a lot. And you'll see that if you ever go to Europe, for example. And I'm not just picking on Europe, but just an example because I've been there recently. Having your phone out and taking photos is an opportune moment for a thief to just grab your phone and run. I saw so many people just mindlessly just have their phones up there like that. And I was so concerned that someone would actually swipe their phone, which is why if you do go to Europe, you'll see a lot of people have these lanyard cases where there's like a bit of rope that comes out of the bottom of the case, and they just hold onto that rope and tie it around their wrists, and that's when they take photos. Anyway, people realize that's an issue. With this, because I've gripped it in my hands and because the only thing you can see is the actual lens itself, I felt very comfortable taking photos and videos because no one would be able to snatch it out of my hand. And if they did, unfortunately, what would happen is that this would probably break, the gimbal component, but they wouldn't just be able to take it and run. Now, the last pro of the Pocket 3 is the fact that you can easily connect a wireless mic to the camera. This is the DJI Mic 2, and you can easily connect it directly to the Pocket 3 without any receiver. It has an inbuilt receiver, this is a transmitter, and the fact is you can record professional 32 float audio on this device. It syncs up together, so you don't even have to process and stitch up the audio and video file together, and you get amazing, amazing, amazing audio off the cuff. G'day everyone, just a quick little mic test from the Pocket 3. Now I'm using the inbuilt mic around a foot away from my mouth, away from my face. How does it sound? This is the same room that I'm making this video right now. So the same setting, this is how it sounds using the inbuilt mic on the DJI Pocket 3. Now I'm using the DJI Mic 2. You can see it right here. How does it sound? Does it sound significantly better than the inbuilt mic? Significantly worse? Which surely isn't possible, right? But you tell me. So this is using the DJI Mic 2 with the Pocket 3. Now, I've talked about the pros. There are some cons. And I do believe the pros outweigh the cons, but the cons actually might be material to you. And for me, there's a couple of cons which are very, very frustrating. And I'll save my conclusion until the end, but it makes me question the benefit of the Pocket 3. Now, if we start off, the most important thing is that this is not weather sealed, it's not weatherproof, it's not waterproof, it's not resistant, it's certainly not dust resistant. You can't really take this anywhere. And the problem with that idea is, well, it's small. It's designed to be the all-in-one camera that you take with you everywhere, and that's what I do. I take it with me everywhere. I live in Australia. I live very close to the beach. I go to the beach almost every day. I struggle to take this with me because I know that if I go to the beach, or if I'm going hiking, or if I'm going fishing, or if I'm going to be near water or near a dusty environment or a dirty environment with a lot of mud or anything like that, I don't want to take this with me because it is not weather sealed. And the worst part about it is that it's incredibly fragile. So we've talked about the gimbal. We talked about the gimbal system. This gimbal system is incredibly fragile. So it's really based on magnets. So you can probably hear that. And this means that if any debris, if any dust gets in here or any water gets in here, it's completely cooked. Then you've got the articulating screen as well. So this articulating screen, you can probably see behind it, you know, what happens when dust or dirt gets behind that. And of course you've got a lot of open seals everywhere, open USB-C port there, you've got an open SD card there. It's scary sometimes to use because I know that it's so easy to take with me if I accidentally put it in my beach bag and I'm at the beach, and even if I don't record it, we know that sand gets everywhere, and I'm so concerned that sand is going to get into one of these crevices or anything like that. And it's a genuine concern. It really is a genuine concern because even with these big cameras like here, this Sony, it is weather sealed. I definitely don't want to take it into a precarious environment, but it is weather sealed. With this, there's no aspect to that at all, and fragility is something that I'm really concerned about long-term ownership and use. How long will it be until we get a mechanical failure with the gimbal or this articulating screen? Are there solutions to this problem? Sort of. I have seen this waterproof case that you can actually put the Pocket 3 in. I don't know how confident I am in that case. For example, you can get these waterproof housings for cameras such as this. Those waterproof housings are expensive, and they're expensive for a reason, because at least those are the type of cases you will feel confident in housing an expensive Sony full frame camera in. And waterproof housing that I've seen for these cameras, I just don't know. I just don't know. Now, the other part to it is the gimbal. So I've talked about how positive the gimbal is and how many creative shots you can get with it, the auto face tracking, etc, the stability. It's really great, but there's a huge caveat with this. You need to really learn how to use a gimbal. And I think this is just a general thing altogether with any type of gimbal system that you may have or be introduced to. You need to learn how to use it. But it's a little bit frustrating. I have to admit, it's a little bit frustrating. Probably the biggest thing is that you can't just point and shoot at an object. So when you're recording and you're recording yourself, it's really great. You can walk around just recording yourself. Awesome. If you're a travel vlogger, for example, and you're recording yourself and you're going to a market and you see this random apple at a fruit market and you're like, I want to take footage of that random apple. You can't just flip it over and record it. You have to change the gimbal settings, so you have to move the joystick around so that it faces the other way, and then you need to kind of pivot the joystick to get focus. In comparison, say you're using an action camera such as the Action 5 Pro. Now with the Action 5 Pro, what do? When you're vlogging, you vlog like this, and then you can quickly change the orientation of the camera. You can flip it around just like that. And what I found to be really, really frustrating is that with the gimbal, you can't do that because it's a gimbal. And when you do kind of flip it around, what tends to happen is that it's slow. So it's not going to be a quick, swift little movement like that, and you can quickly capture the scene. The gimbal is going to slowly rotate around, and that is frustrating, especially when you're trying to capture something in the moment then and there. Now, there is a setting in the actual camera itself for the lens to be in line with where the screen is facing, but it doesn't lock the gimbal into place. And again, all of this is quite frustrating when you're a travel vlogger, for example, because you're not going to be able to quickly capture what you're seeing. Because the whole point of, I guess, travel vlogging is for you to bring the audience into your own perspective and for them to see what you're seeing then and there. And again, I'll talk about this in a second, but this is kind of the reason why even travel vloggers, they're not really using the Pocket 3. They're sticking to the action cameras because it provides all of this and more. The third issue is the battery. Now, the battery life on the DJI Pocket 3, it's not bad. It's not really bad at all, but it's not interchangeable. And this is a big problem because, well, the only thing you can do is have this kind of attachment. So this is a battery handle, and I'll put on screen the milliamps of this battery and how much you can charge the device for. But you click it like this, and what ends up happening is now you've got this extended device. It completely changes the body of the camera. But the fact that it doesn't have interchangeable batteries is it's a bummer. What ends up happening is that if you use a full frame camera or an APS-C camera or an action camera, all these come with rechargeable batteries. They're interchangeable. So with the Action 5, for example, I've got a ton of batteries that I charge up all together in this battery case and I take with me when I'm traveling or I'm recording anything. And when the camera dies, I just quickly change the battery. The same thing with these cameras. I've got a ton of Sony camera batteries that I just quickly change when I need to. It allows me to ensure that I always have the ability to charge up my device without adding extra bulk to it, like this handle. And also, it's not like you can buy a ton of these battery handles. I mean, I guess you can. It's going to be very expensive. And how are you going to charge all of it together? One of the best things about the action cameras, and I guess any cameras, is that they have these battery cases for you to charge multiple batteries with one USB outlet, which means you can charge all these batteries overnight and then you've got a bucket full of batteries for you to use throughout the day. And I think that's where there's a big negative to this, because you can't necessarily rely on this full time. You're not going to say that it's going to last the whole day. Again, are there solutions to this? Well, there's bandages. I wouldn't call them solutions. You can plug it into a power bank. I've got this new Anker power bank, which I'm actually going to review very soon as well, which is really cool. Just an FYI. Subscribe if you want to see a review of this new Anker battery power bank, battery bank, whatever you want to call it. But it's not going to be that great, because then you've got this massive bloody power bank and you have a USB cable coming out of the end, and what, you're going to put this in your bag and then have this massive cable just coming out? No, let's just be realistic, right? We need to be a little bit pragmatic about this. If it came with an interchangeable battery, that would be really, really, really cool. I guess maybe this is fine, but, you know, perhaps it is fine to a certain degree. You could have this charge up the main device and then have this be charged up with your power bank. That could be a solution. It could be a solution, but again, if you're filming for the whole day, you're out of the house for the whole day, having the ability to have interchangeable batteries is a godsend. And quite frankly, that's why any professional gear has interchangeable batteries. The fourth thing is the lens size. So it has a lens size of around 20 millimeters. Now, that's not bad. It's not that bad, but I think there is a big disservice, because a wider angle lens would be much better if you're vlogging. Again, if this is a vlogging situation right there, you're probably going to have your camera around here. So it's not going to be able to capture a lot of the background, compared to, say, the Action 5, which is around 12.5 or something like that. So it's a relatively wide lens, and that just means it's going to capture everything behind you. It's going to capture more of the background, which is very important when it comes to vlogging. Again, it really depends on what you're trying to do. A wide angle lens would be a little bit, I think that would be quite useful and helpful. Now, there are these wide angle lens adapters. In fact, it comes with one, if I could find it. Here it is. So, again, one thing I really like about the Pocket 3 is that it's got this pack. It's got this really cool homogeneous pack, and inside here you can actually store your wide angle lens, and you miss filter there as well. And this is the wide angle lens, and what it is, it magnetizes to the actual lens itself. Let me show you. So it clicks in like that. It clicks in just like that. And it provides you with a wider angle. So from here, it's 15 millimeters. So that's really cool. That's really great. Got a bit of dust there, which again is probably one of the problems with these kind of lens adapters. But can I tell you what the problem with this is? Look, you see how it's prodding out. You see how the lens can't actually go back to its hibernating state. This is the issue with this lens adapter. And that's why people who say, why don't you just use a wide angle lens adapter and now you'll get something a little bit wider? Well, that's not useful if you can't even turn your camera off. So I think it would be really good if DJI changed the Pocket 4 to have a wide angle lens off the cuff. I think that would be a good draw card. So I've given you a lot of pros and a few cons. I think the pros outweigh the cons, but the cons actually might be material to you. And it might be the make or break decision as to whether you purchase the Pocket 3. For me, what I'm struggling to understand is where does the Pocket 3 fit within the lineup of camera systems? Because if you don't own a camera at all, or maybe you only have an iPhone, this might be the perfect solution for you. I consider it to be an all-in-one solution. We talked about it. It has a inbuilt gimbal. It's very small. It's very easy. It shoots great 4K imagery, both photos and videos. It comes with, if you buy the Creator Combo, it comes with this DJI Mic 2, which means you're going to get excellent audio. The gimbal makes it really stable for you to make videos in whatever you're doing, whether it's vlogging, just talking in front of the camera. It's really great. It's very small, which means you can take photos and images and videos of anything that you really want in a very creative way. I think it's really great, and it probably will be a buy if you don't have any cameras in your arsenal. But if you do, I just don't know where it fits in. The thing is, if you're like me, you have a full frame camera, and a full frame camera or a high-end APS-C camera, they take amazing photos and they take amazing videos. And my dilemma owning this whilst also owning all of these cameras is I would always prefer to shoot on my full frame when taking photos, when taking B-roll, when doing anything, because I know that the quality is going to be superb. It's going to be the best quality you can get, and it's the best quality that I will get. So why not go for something that provides you with the highest quality? Even though it's a little bulky, even though it's a little cumbersome sometimes, I would prefer to use the full frame because of the quality. Now, when would I not use the full frame? Well, I wouldn't use my full frame camera if I'm going to a precarious place. If I'm going to the beach, if I'm swimming, I'm not going to take this in the water with me. If I'm skiing, for example, if I'm hiking, if I'm fishing, for example, I wouldn't take it with me unless I'm shooting fishing videos and I have this on the side on a tripod away from the water and away from the sand or dirt. That would be the situation when I would not use my full frame camera. But the situations I described, I'm not going to be able to use this. I'm not going to be able to use this at all because it's not dust proof, it's not weatherproof, it has no water resistance whatsoever, and it's incredibly fragile. In those kind of situations, I will use an action camera. An action camera is the ideal camera for those situations. It has a rugged design. It's meant to be, outside. It's meant to be in the water. You get dust on it, not a big deal. You just wash it in the shower. You just wash it under the sink. You can do all these things with an action camera. You can't do that with the Pocket 3. The only difference, to be frankly honest with you, between the two is the image quality. Because even when it comes to stabilization, yes, this has a 3-axis inbuilt gimbal, but this has Rocksteady. And it has essentially software stabilization. The negative, of course, is that it kind of crops into the image, but we already talked about the fact that action cameras have wide angle lenses, so cropping in is not really a big deal at all. The durability is obviously a big thing. You can see here, there's no movable parts. There is so many points of failure on this device, and I'm constantly concerned that even me just putting it in my pocket might inadvertently cause issues with the gimbal. It might break the gimbal. This is built to be rugged. Now, yes, you've got this screen up front, you've got a screen in the back. I haven't put a tempered screen protector on. I probably will soon, I probably should, but this lens, you can replace this lens if you want to. It's replaceable. I actually have this Action 5, as you can see, in this metal case, which is really, really cool. It's there to protect the action camera. And again, it's waterproof, it's dustproof. If it falls in the snow, it doesn't matter. I can take it with me snorkeling. Any kind of precarious areas where I would not want to take my full frame camera, I'll take my action camera. So again, where does the Pocket 3 fall into this gear setup? I feel the Pocket 3 is a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And I've tried to really look at this objectively because I've seen so many reviews about the Pocket 3, so many people who have talked about it, and then I go to their videos and I wonder, I wonder if you still use the Pocket 3 after you reviewed it or you've talked about it. What camera gear do you actually use? And I've got a wide range of interests when it comes to YouTube. For example, I love watching travel vloggers. And what I've noticed about travel vloggers is that even though this has been released for more than a year now, people aren't using it. People are still using action cameras. And I've explained the reasons why. Because they're very durable. They've got a wider lens. They're waterproof. They're dustproof. When you're traveling, you don't know what kind of situation you're in. They're rugged. If they fall, which often cameras do when you're live vlogging or you're a travel vlogger, it's durable. It's going to survive. The other aspect that I talked about is that the lack of gimbal makes it so easy for you to just quickly point at, shoot at you. You can just talk about your day, blah, blah, blah. I'm walking through the city in Barcelona, and then you can be like, oh, look at that fruit merchant over there. Look at that fruit market. Look at this statue. You can easily point and shoot, and I think that's a really important thing. And again, I've seen that happen. When it comes to tech reviewers, they're interesting because they've reviewed the Pocket 3, and yet when you look at their systems, it's always a full frame camera system, which makes sense. You want the best quality available to you. And essentially that's what they'll use. Even though portability might be a big factor, they might be traveling or anything like that, they'll still use a full frame camera. And then of course they'll use an action camera when they're trying to get underwater shots or when they're in precarious environments, because that's what an action camera is for. I also watch a lot of fishing videos and kayaking videos, and of course, the action camera is what you use. And people will still use full frame cameras or APS-C cameras to create that cinematic imagery and footage. So again, I'm seeing these two cameras used. I'm not seeing this camera being used. And of course, commentary videos or talking head videos, people tend to start off with a cheaper camera setup, which often is your phone, which is probably the best camera for most people. It's a really, really good camera. And then they upgrade to an APS-C or they go full frame. It's very clear to me based off this analysis that most people will gravitate towards a full frame or an APS-C camera if they're very, very serious about content creation and creating videos, especially on YouTube. With an action camera, it very much complements a full frame or an APS-C camera because there are various situations where you would not be able to use a full frame camera or an APS-C camera, but it would be perfect for an action camera. These are small, these are waterproof, they're dustproof, they're rugged, etc, etc. This is your run and gun to do anything. So really, the comparison is, well, where does this fit in? Where does this fit into this lineup? And that's what I'm really concerned about. When it comes to business, you need to have a competitive advantage in whatever you do. You need to be able to say that this product can do this unique thing that all these other products cannot. I'm struggling to see what this can do that the others cannot. There's small benefits, but the fact of the matter is this would never be able to compare to a full frame camera. That's a fact. It probably wouldn't even be able to compare to a high-end APS-C camera or just a general APS-C camera. And that's also a fact. So you can really compare these two, and that's what you end up doing. You compare the Pocket 3 to an action camera. And if I'm going to be honest, the only real difference between the two, and we talked about the gimbal and we talked about all these other stuff, the only real difference is the image quality. I will contend that the Pocket 3 has much better imagery when it comes to photos, when it comes to videos, than all the other action cameras on the market. But what happens when there's new chip designs, there's tech improvements, there's better ability to cool the device, ensure high battery? What happens when we have that level of technological advancement, which creates and allows for a camera like this to have the same quality as a camera like this? Because as soon as this camera ends up having the same quality as this, well, what's the point of this? Because it's not going to be able to compete with a full frame camera at all. The gimbal's nice, but as I said, there's flaws to the gimbal. And if you look at Reddit and you look at any kind of forum out there, people have complained about the gimbal. And as I said before, you really need to learn how to use a gimbal. But for the most part, with in-body stabilization, do you really, really need it? I don't know. So that's where I kind of leave this review. I don't know whether I'm going to keep this camera or not, but I think it is so unique, and DJI has done an amazing job in terms of developing this tech. I mean, this is the reason why this is the TikTok/YouTube camera of the year. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about this camera. Are you thinking about purchasing it? Or perhaps you already have the DJI Pocket 3. I'm curious to know how you use it in your own workflow, especially if you have the same setup as me with a full frame camera and an action camera. I'm really curious to know your thoughts. So I really hope this video was useful to you. If you could do one favor for me, it's completely free, but it makes such a difference to me and my channel. If you could like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on, it would honestly mean the world, and especially for small creators like me, it really makes a huge impact on our videos and our reach of these videos. So thank you so much for your support, and I will see you on the next one.